Good evening, everybody. I hope we're doing very well, and welcome to the newest or latest video on the channel where we will be previewing game week 34, which is actually a full normal game week where everyone's just got one fixture for a change, which seems like it's been a long time coming because we've had blanks last week and then doubles the week before, so it's just a standard game week. I am recording this slightly in advance, so famous last words when that changes, or if it's like a big injury, because I'll be away some of this game week. So I'm recording it slightly in advance. So apologies if there's any like injury news that affects some of the choices that I talk about in this video, but can't be helped, I'm afraid. So on the screen, as usual, just make sure you check out the socials. It's really appreciated any support across all of them. Any likes, just views, I really appreciate. And if you're new to viewing the videos and you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, and I appreciate you all for that. So we'll jump into it and we'll switch the screen over. As I said, a full week of fixtures, but we love to see a nice clean 10 fixtures. We love it. So if we dive straight in with Southampton against Leicester, which I think will be a quite interesting game. I do like Southampton aren't very consistent, but they can play good football on the day. I feel like the styles of football these two teams play is quite similar, and they do like to play good football. Just doesn't always get results. Like obviously, it's worked more for Leicester this season than it has Southampton. But Southampton can lose 9-0, but then beat a top team as well. So they're a bit of a funny team. But this is a big game for Leicester, and I think they need to. The kind of run of fixtures they've got now, they need to be taken advantage of. So it's going to go a long way to deciding if they'll get Champions League or not. So I personally think it'll be about 3-1 to Leicester. I wouldn't be banking on them keeping a clean sheet in this game because I feel like Southampton could easily score, even if it's just like from a corner with like Vestergaard getting a header on it. So I'd be going for about a 3-1 because Southampton are quite open at the back at the same time. So this is a good fixture for the Leicester attacking assets, I would feel and hope. So we've got the standard kind of Iheanacho, Vardy and Maddison, which hopefully based on last week's video where we recommended them as well as a good players to have in for the Crystal Palace fixture. Hopefully you've got one or two of them in already, and if not, it's not a bad time because they've still got a good few fixtures after this. So I'd still recommend you getting on that Leicester bandwagon if you're not on it already, because I think the next two fixtures at least are good fixtures as well to keep going. So like I said, I'd expect them to win that game. So then if we move over to the next game, which I think again should really be quite one-sided with Man City. Like when I was looking at this fixture, I'm like, this is probably like a 3 or 4-0 to Man City. It's just picking that right asset. So on this fixture, I have no issue with you taking a punt on the City asset because if you get the right one, they are quite likely to get points. I think Palace they'll probably roll over for City. The kind of football City play, it'll just rip Palace to shreds, I think, even with if they've got semi-reserves out around the Champions League fixtures, it should be quite an easy win for City. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're still hanging on to like a Gundogan or a Diaz because they're quite cheap options. So at this point, if you've got City assets, most of the time just play them because they'll either bang or just won't play. Especially if it's a defender, quite a lot of the time they won't sub on a defender. So if you've got a Diaz, just play him because he's unlikely to come on as a substitute. You might get unlucky with your asset that they come on for the final 20 minutes, but that's the risk you're going to take. I wouldn't have three assets in there, but if you've got a defender and anyone would take a punt on like a KDB or Sterling, then no issue with that, but it probably depends how you're seeing the game. If you're trying to chase rank, that could be a great way to get you up there, but if you're going for safer options, there's better options from like a Leicester that could do the same job, most likely. Again, I'm a bit, because City are almost there with the league and they concentrate on the Champions League. You're never sure how they're going to play and they can rotate and rotate, as we know from a bit of Pep roulette. But so we move down to Brighton against Leeds, which I think could be another interesting game because I feel Brighton, I think as we know by now, just great at XG, but then just can't convert the chances. So you always feel like there will be one game where they can score a few, and Leeds are quite open at the back. So I could see when I wrote this down, I was like, this could be like a 3-2 Leeds game. Yeah, I think whenever you see Leeds, you think, oh, it's going to be an open game and an exciting game. So it'll be hopefully an interesting game. I wouldn't, if you've got Brighton assets, I've no issue you playing them in this game. And there's probably, you could still bench them depending on what other options you've got, but they're not. It's not the worst fixture for them. You might be benching players from other teams that are more difficult. Like if you've got an Everton defender or something, you might back them. Brighton defenders do better than an Everton defender, but I wouldn't be bringing them in. Leeds, I had no issue with you bringing players in for this game and going forward because they've got a good run of fixtures now and after this fixture. So if you like on your wildcard took out all your Leeds assets, now is a good time to be getting those Leeds assets back in. They offer good cheap options, even like a Dallas or a Rafinha, which I think you see, like you could compare them to like a Man City asset. At least you know the Leeds asset is going to start most times out. Like they'll start 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. They kind of stick with the same team every week. Leeds, so like a Dallas, you know he's guaranteed to start rather than like a Diaz or a Cancelo at the back for City. So I think they're good cheap options if you've jumped off them already to get back in onto them. So we move on to the Chelsea-Fulham game, which I think really should be one-sided for Chelsea. Just depends on it being around Champions League games. So there might be a bit of rotation, but you'd still expect them, even if they had a few players in on rotation, to have enough for Fulham, especially because they need to try get that Champions League spot. It's an important game for them. Like Fulham are clinging on, but it's going to take a lot of effort for them to keep in with a chance coming into the last few games of the season. I know we're on game week 34 already. It feels like we're flying for it now, nearly at the end. It's been a long haul, but we're nearly there. We'll get there together, guys. So yeah, I think I'm still not convinced by Chelsea's attacking assets, but a few Chelsea defenders should hopefully be good for this game. Like Fulham max in any game will probably score 2 goals anyway, so you've got a good chance of getting a clean sheet there. But knowing how the Chelsea defender look has been going previously, it'll end up 5-2 like the West Brom fixture, but you've got to play the fixture sometimes and just hope it'll pay out for you. So definitely defence I'd be recommending there. Like I don't mind a Mount or someone like a cheaper option, but I don't think I'd be stretching out to a Werner. It's just not got the right amount of returns for that value of a player, in my opinion. You can spend your money better elsewhere. The next fixture, Everton against Villa, I feel like could be a tight game again. I had this written down as a 1-1 because I can't particularly choose a team that fully will go out for the win here. I think at this point, the chances of Europe for both teams are probably just a bit far out there. They might squeeze a Europa League place, but they're quite evenly matched, these two teams. So you could easily see like Everton running away with it, but if I was going for a safe bet, I'd just be going for probably a score draw, a 1-1, but it could go like 2-1 either way. So that doesn't create a lot of value in their assets for this week, in my opinion. I think in FPL, 1-1 is probably the worst fixture because your attackers aren't getting a huge return and it's wiping out any clean sheets. So it's kind of one of these fixtures I'm avoiding because there's not a lot of upside on FPL points. So then we've got Newcastle Arsenal, which I would normally say is a good fixture for an Arsenal asset, but with the Europa League commitments, I don't think it is as such. So I'd even think the Newcastle could get a result in this fixture. Like I said, depending on the rotation, because I feel like because how close this fixture is to the Europa League ties, that Arsenal aren't going to fully focus on this game, and they've not got particularly anything to play for in the league. So unless they're somehow sneaky Europa League place, but I'm not sure that's a priority. I think they'd rather be putting all the eggs into the Europa League semi-finals and getting Champions League by winning that competition. But so that doesn't convince me fully by this fixture. I wouldn't be investing in any assets in this fixture. I just, if you've got one or two, well, I hope you wouldn't even have more than one. You might have a Saka, but I wouldn't be investing more in this asset for this week, or either assets. No, I think I mentioned in the last video, Wilson for the last few weeks, like game week 37, 38, he's got some decent fixtures, which could bring him in for it. He could get the odd goal in this fixture, but it's probably not the right time. He might just have a good patch in this one fixture, and then the next two are quite difficult still. So it's not one I'll be jumping straight on. There's better options to go for this week, kind of how we've discussed with a Leeds or a Leicester above. So then probably, I think probably the most high profile game of the game week, Man United against Liverpool, which is slightly similar to the Arsenal game in the sense of United might have priorities elsewhere. At this point, the league is beyond United, probably well, it has been for a few months. City are just basically there already. So in my mind, this fixture is bigger for Liverpool than it is for Man United, which normally isn't the case because United last few years haven't been above them most of the time. So it's a nice change, but so I would probably expect it's either going to be a really low scoring game and just sit out for a 0-0, or if I was picking a winner, I'd probably be picking Liverpool as a winner because they've got more need to win this fixture than United have. Like United aren't really going to lose out on the Champions League in the league unless there's a huge collapse, which isn't likely to happen. And they've got to focus on the Europa League. They don't particularly need a Champions League qualification, but it's just about the trophy getting it in there. So I had down for a 2-1 Liverpool win if I was predicting it at this point in time. So I would hope we have a few Liverpool assets in there already because I would say this is Liverpool's hardest fixture of the season or for the rest of the season. The rest of the fixture list is pretty easy. I would say if Liverpool win this game, they're pretty guaranteed Champions League football at this point because the fixtures are so much easier than like Chelsea's. Leicester have got a favourable run in the next few weeks, but then the last games get tough. I think Leicester and Chelsea actually play each other at one point later on near the end of the season. So definitely I'd be favouring Liverpool for that run. So if there's a game that they could potentially throw or make it more difficult for themselves, it could be this fixture. But like I said, I think they'll go all out for the win. They really need to. It's not as much priority for United. So I wouldn't be put off captaining a Liverpool asset in this one. Or I say that. I don't like, well, we've had examples at Old Trafford where it's been like 6-1 to Spurs, but I can see it being a 2-1 or a 3-1. So there is some attacking potential for Liverpool, but maybe I'd be looking elsewhere for. You've probably got a higher upside on the Leicester or even a Leeds player than you have on Liverpool. And the next fixture that we're going to talk about with Spurs, because I'd say Kane probably more dead set to get points against Sheffield United than you are for Liverpool. So we'll move on to that. Spurs against Sheffield United, which I mentioned on the last week's video because Spurs had a blank game week, but I warned don't get rid of all your Spurs fixtures because they've got Sheffield United next game, which especially because Spurs are at home, is probably the easiest fixture they'll have all season. Like Sheffield United are gone. Like they might put in a fight, but on paper this fixture is the best for Spurs, and I can see a high proportion of people captaining Kane. I think he's just a solid bet for this game week. There'll be, well, you might even go for a Son for Spurs. I can see captaincy going on Liverpool players, maybe a few on Leeds and then some on Leicester, even a Chelsea defender maybe, or if you're feeling very differential on a Man City player. But Kane, I think, will be the most captained in the week. Sometimes you just have to go for the fixture, like it's form and fixture, but that is just fixture. Whatever form you're in, especially Kane, you expect him to be able to score against these kind of teams. So if you want your number one captaincy pick, it's going to be Kane every day of the week for this week. So we move on to West Brom against Wolves, which I think again could be a decent game. I've been a bit disappointed by Wolves this season because they're just not going for it. I understand like Jimenez obviously has been out most of the season, but even when he was in the team earlier in the season, they weren't great attacking wise, which had been disappointing from them. I was hoping they were going to push on. And then West Brom seemed like they can give anyone a game in the last few weeks, which has been good to see from them, but they should have really been doing it earlier and putting up more of a fight earlier in the season to make it easier for themselves, and probably would have stayed up quite easily. But again, it could be an entertaining game. I think I'd edge towards West Brom being able to win that game. As I mentioned last week, if you've got a Prayer or someone from West Brom, it's not the worst little punt to have. Not a lot of players are going to have them, and the fixtures they've got aren't the worst I've seen. And well, even we saw against Chelsea, they could score quite a few goals, so they just seem to have clicked and finally been let off the leash a bit, which is benefiting them FPL wise and obviously the results. Which should be a decent game, that one as well. So then we move to the last fixture, which I think is a huge fixture for West Ham. They need to. This is the kind of game they need to be winning. Well, they need to win most of their games the rest of the season if they're realistically wanting to get in the Champions League and even to consolidate Europa League spot. Because I think they'll take Europa if you were handed them it. They might suffer next season for it, but I think at this stage they've got to be going all out in a game like this. But it is one of like when you say Burnley and you go into Burnley, you always think it's going to be a tough fixture and you're going to have to scrap it out really. So I think it'll be tough for West Ham, but I'm expecting them just to scrape it like a 2-1, maybe even a 3-1, getting a late goal on the counter. So probably the West Ham attackers, depending on fitness, obviously Antonio's out. You might even go for a Bowen. There's a bit more differential depending on Lingard's fitness as well. But well, the issue West Ham have got is they've just got all the injuries at the wrong time. So just when they needed to push on, they're struggling with all their injuries. So fingers crossed they'll put all the best fights for the Champions League and Europa, but it's probably just hit them at the wrong time, these injuries, to doubt what they can do, especially if they don't win this game. It's probably ruining the Champions League dream for them for now, unfortunately. Put up a good fight. But yeah, there's some interesting fixtures this week, which I like it when everyone's playing in the same week. It just makes it complete, I think, from the Premier League point of view. And we love a bit of Premier League. We don't want no Super Leagues. We like our Premier League football. And we can't be ruining FPL. Yeah, so just a bit of a recap. So if I was looking for captains this week, I'd be avoiding quite a lot of the fixtures because I don't see West Ham haven't got a huge upside because they're playing Burnley, in my opinion. So I'll be narrowing it down to the Leicester fixture because I think that'll be quite an open game. You've got your two forwards, Iheanacho, Vardy, and then a Maddison. I'd probably stay away from the defence because I think Southampton could score. Man City is the ultimate punt this week. If you get the right asset, you could have a huge upside because I think they'll win by quite a few in that game. But again, it's very risky. I like the look of Leeds because I feel that'll be quite an open game again. Like I backed them to win about 3-2 in this game, so I've no issue with captaining Leeds. Chelsea, I'd only be captaining the defenders. So there is quite a few games where you could be tagged in the captain. Like I mentioned, Liverpool you could go for. But then my standout captain would be Kane for the week. So if I was ranking like my top three, I'd be going Kane, definitely number one. If I was going second, I'd be going for a Leicester asset. And then third is probably the differential where you'd be going for like a Leeds or a Man City. Or you could say like a Salah's a bit more safer bet again for Liverpool, but you never, like in that kind of fixture, you never know. Sometimes the big games can be a letdown, it just ends up 0-0, so you don't get a lot of benefit from it. But I hope that gives you a bit of guidance for the game week ahead, guys. Let me know what you think of this one. And like I said, I'm happy we've got a full list of fixtures and it's not too spread out. I think definitely game week 32 is spread out a lot. And this one, it's just over a weekend, how we like it traditionally. But yeah, I hope this helps you guys. Let me know in the comments or on other social media channels, which I'll leave in this. We talked about at the start and I'll leave in the description. Reach out if you've got any questions or need any guidance. Always here to help. And good luck in the game week, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good evening.